Hello, I'm Janessa. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be exploring the new moon in Pisces that's happening on February 27th, 2025. I'll provide an overview of the energy surrounding this new moon, as well as horoscopes for all 12 signs. This new moon in Pisces is bringing a lot of energy in this sign because there's actually a stellium of planets in Pisces. So in some ways, this new moon is an invitation into understanding Pisces energy much more deeply in your birth chart. Let's get ready to swim through the ocean of this changeable water sign. I'm sharing my screen so you can take a look at this chart with me, and we'll break down all elements of the key characteristics that I see in this chart. First of all, this Pisces new moon is happening on February 27th, 2025, and I've actually set the chart for Boston, Massachusetts, just because that's where I live. So just know that this chart might look a little different depending on where you are in the world. You'll see here the sun and moon at 9 degrees of Pisces. And as I mentioned, a pretty hefty stellium in this sign. We have Saturn at 20 degrees, Mercury at 24 degrees, the North Node at 27 degrees, and Neptune at 28 degrees. Whenever there's a stellium of planets, which I usually define as 3 or 4 or more planets, there's heightened energy that's expressing itself in the form of that astrological sign. We can think about what does a new moon signify, and then what does Pisces signify, and start to delineate potential expressions of that energy. A new moon occurs when the sun and moon are exactly conjunct. As you probably know, it's a time of new beginnings. But here's the thing to keep in mind with new beginnings. New beginnings are also endings. It's this constant cyclical nature of life. Sometimes in order to start something, open something, begin something, we have to end something, close something, and move beyond a phase that we've been in. A new moon is a great time to set intentions for a specific area of life. Locate Pisces in your birth chart. What house is it in? Reflect on the significations of that house and ask yourself, what is something new that I would like to create in this area of my life? Especially since Pisces is a visionary sign. It's a sign that is very expansive. It's ruled by Jupiter traditionally. Allow yourself to access your imagination. Visualize what you want. Feel into what that future version of you is experiencing already. Also tap into a deeper reason or why for this desire. Pisces invites us to ask the question, what is the true meaning of this? When we bring our focus and our intention to a specific desire of ours, we not only work with our mind, but we also work with our body. Since the moon is connected to the somatic experience, deepen into those feelings, those sensations, because the more we can get all dimensions of us on board with creating a new experience, the more we can show up in our lives and take action from that aligned place. Because that's where the true power lies. In this day and age, we are bombarded by information all the time. Everybody's grasping for our attention. But when we can remain connected to the heart space, to the soul space, however you want to define that for yourself, we access a different kind of awareness and intelligence, that intuitive sense that leaves little signs for us along the way with synchronicity. Don't ignore those moments and those messages, especially around this new moon in Pisces when this energy is very much heightened for all of us. There are some challenges with Pisces energy as well, and this is especially true with Neptune in the sign here, even though it's not very close to the sun and moon. Neptune has been in Pisces for many years, so you may already have a felt sense of this experience. Neptune does not want boundaries or definitions or constraints. And you'll see here with Saturn in Pisces, Saturn in some ways is trying to bring that energy into this area of life. So we have this push and pull between the desire to contain, to define, to root into something real and tangible, but also this impulse to open, to expand, to embrace what may feel boundless or endless. And Mercury, our minds and our mental experience, how we communicate, how we connect with things around us, is somewhat caught in the middle here between Saturn and the North Node and Neptune. So Mercury is trying to make sense of things that it may not actually have the capacity to fully grasp. And if you are having more of a challenging time with this new moon in Pisces energy, you're feeling maybe lost in the ocean of your experience, remind yourself of the power of ritual. Sometimes rituals feel like really big experiences where we tap into something much more expansive than ourselves. But the influence of Mercury and Saturn in Pisces right now reminds us of the sacred nature of routine, mundane tasks, rather rather than huge catharsis, explosive moments of opening? What if we access the sacred in the slow building of skills and competence over time? One of the key signatures in this chart is also the fact that Mercury is in Pisces and Jupiter is at 12 degrees of Gemini. So although this is not a very close square, we have mutual reception because Jupiter rules Pisces according to traditional astrology and Mercury rules Gemini. In other words, they're hanging out in each other's homes. And mutual reception, even though this is a sign-based square, which could suggest some sort of conflict or tension to resolve, there's actually a lot of support here with gathering the details, talking about the details, connecting with various data points, that's Jupiter and Gemini, and learning how to synthesize all of that information, integrating it into a bigger picture and understanding mentally. That's Mercury and Pisces. So look to see where you have Gemini and Pisces in your chart. Reflect on how that relationship might be showing up for you around this new moon in Pisces. We also have Mercury in a fairly close sextile with Uranus. You'll see Mercury here at 24 degrees of Pisces and Uranus still hanging out at 23 degrees of Taurus. And this sextile is exact on February 27th, just prior to the new moon. Uranus brings in many different themes. If you're interested in doing a deeper dive into that, you can check out my video about Uranus and Taurus. But a quick take is that Uranus usually suggests something sudden, unexpected shifts or changes. It can also bring in this element of something that's counterculture or going against the norm. Uranus innovates and disrupts the status quo. And although Mercury had a square with Uranus not that long ago, a square fundamentally feels very different than a sextile. A sextile usually presents an opportunity. It's a decision point. Do we take action with something or do we choose not to act? How this plays out definitely depends on what planets you have in Pisces, what planets you have in Taurus, and any other planets or angles in your chart that are forming configurations on their own with these two planets. A suggestion I'll offer is that whenever we come to a sextile or a decision point, I appreciate the phrase, play out the tape. Play out what may or may not happen as a result of your choices. Sometimes we can get caught up in that disruptive, innovative, exciting energy that Uranus brings in. Or sometimes it's something that comes on so suddenly. We don't have a lot of time to really respond or think about how we want to react. Trust your intuition, listen to your body, create some space so your mind has the freedom to really listen to what's going on inside you. Another configuration I'll highlight is Venus at 10 degrees of Aries approaching a sextile with Jupiter at 12 degrees of Gemini. This configuration actually does not go exact until June of this year, and that's because although Venus is approaching that sextile right now with Jupiter, Venus will station retrograde on March 1st, very soon after this new moon in Pisces. The reason why I want to highlight this though is because with these two areas of our charts, Aries and Gemini, it could be subtle, but it might also be a little more pronounced that there's a building up between Venus and Jupiter, the two benefics, the two planets that generally say yes to things in life. But it doesn't complete, it doesn't go exact. So notice if you're picking up on that momentum between those two areas of life, just know that if it doesn't come to fruition, it could be because we're about to go into this Venus underworld retrograde experience. And there's going to be a lot of information between now and when Venus actually forms a sextile with Jupiter. In other words, there's a lot of life to live before things really come to completion. That's an overview of some of the key characteristics of this new moon in Pisces. You will likely feel this a lot more intensely if you have planets or angles in mutable signs. So that includes Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. And what I always like to do is invite you to pay attention to your subjective somatic experience around this new moon in Pisces and notice how it compares to the full moon in Leo just a couple weeks before. This is how we take the symbology and language of astrology and start to apply it to our embodied experience. So you can tap into the lunation cycle, the ebb and flow of the tide of emotions. Because I found in my work with people that some people tend to connect more to full moon energy versus new moon energy. And that can influence what types of rituals or practices you do over the course of a month and full lunar cycle for your well-being. I hope this overview of the new moon in Pisces is helpful. Next, we'll get into the horoscopes for your rising sign for this new moon. Welcome, Aries rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 12th house, which can be associated with seclusion or withdrawing, perhaps more isolated experiences. It can be connected to mental health and your overall psychological and spiritual well-being. Sometimes it can show up in experiences with people whose interests aren't necessarily aligned with yours. Sometimes it can also be connected to death or what happens as a result of legal endeavors, including trials and court judgments. However this is showing up for you, remember you have the fortitude to make decisions that support your overall mental health. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself during this time. Allow yourself to nap or sleep. Look to your dreams or synchronicities for little messages of hope and encouragement. Take whatever time you need by yourself to recharge and prioritize your needs and well-being. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Taurus rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 11th house, which is associated with groups of people. Sometimes that includes broader social networks, even social media, but it can include friends, alliances, your hopes and goals and dreams for your future, and overall how you connect to other people and community. Notice during this time if you feel drawn to specific communities and spaces. If you feel it's aligned for you, expand your network of connections, or perhaps deepen into compassion for friends and groups of people. Ask yourself, what are the hopes and goals that you have for friendship and community moving forward? Visualize what this could look like for you. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Gemini rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 10th house, which is associated with your career and your public life, what people visibly see about you. So this includes your reputation and overall a sense of advancement in your life. How are you moving forward? And this could be specifically through the work that you do, but it could also be other ways that you show up publicly to be seen. Ask yourself, what is the deeper why behind your ambitions? And maybe take a moment to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Where do you want to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years? If you feel truly ambitious, ask yourself what type of legacy you want to leave. How does the work you're doing and the way that you're showing up publicly support that vision? And if there's a gap there between what you're doing now and the work you want to do, trust that even small steps in that direction build up over time. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Cancer rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 9th house, which is associated with higher education, long distance travel, sometimes foreign people and languages and cultures. It's also your overall sense of life philosophy, spirituality, maybe even religion. And it can bring in politics as well. Ask yourself what new intention you'd like to set in this area of life. How are you looking to expand your horizon and understanding of how you fit into a bigger picture? Are there specific studies or education or skill development you need to take up your place and take up your space in this very connected life? Give yourself permission to dream big and tap into a deeper intention and why this is so important to you. I wish you the best with this full moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Leo rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 8th house, which is associated with other people's resources, or resources perhaps that are tied up with other people. That could be debts, investments, inheritance. This includes taxes. It can also bring up themes related to death and deep psychological experiences. If you feel drawn to mystical and spiritual matters, feel into that inspiration. If there is something coming up around money or shared assets or resources, put that into perspective of a bigger picture. Money is simply an exchange of value. How do you want to be in right relationship with that, in the giving, receiving, and exchanging of that value? What would feel good and truly align with your values? I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, Virgo rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 7th house, which is associated with close relationships. This includes romantic relationships, even marriage, but it also includes any close relationship you may have, whether it's a business collaboration, a very close friend, or some other type of partnership. Because this new moon is happening in your 7th house, it could bring up themes related to you since it's in opposition to your rising sign, but it also may suggest that there will be events or developments with your partner. In either situation, ask yourself, what's most important to you? How do you want to show up for yourself? And how do you want to show up for your partner? And if the event in particular coming up around this new moon is more tied to you, what does it mean to really receive support from your partner? What would feel good? How would you like to receive love and recognition of your needs from them? I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Libra rising, welcome. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 6th house, which is associated with your work and schedules and routine. It can also bring up themes around your physical health. And sometimes it does bring in this theme of injury or challenges or illnesses. How this manifests for you will be very dependent on your birth chart and what's being activated. With whatever arises, take a deep breath. Give yourself the time you need to process. Notice any intuitive hits or little messages or synchronicities coming up for you. Take in messages from your physical body. What is your nervous system saying to you right now? Go with the flow, but also establish whatever boundaries you need right now. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you so much for being here. Scorpio rising, welcome. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 5th house, which is connected, of course, to children and child rearing. It can also bring in events related to romantic relationships and experiences, but overall, your sense of creativity. How does life force energy move through you? This could be as simple as the types of hobbies or activities that really bring you joy. Follow your intuition if there are new things you'd like to play with, maybe even new people. Experiment with what brings you joy and explore the role of compassion when it comes to your relationship with your children if you have them. And if this shows up from an inner psychological perspective, also explore compassion for your inner child, asking them what they would enjoy playing with. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Sagittarius rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 4th house, which is the house associated with home and family, but it's also connected to things that happen in our private lives. Sometimes it can show up as trying to get to the root or foundation of something, and specifically the actions we take in connection with these different areas of life. Allow your heart to open, perhaps in ways it hasn't before, while maintaining healthy boundaries. Maybe playing with restructuring these areas of life. Maybe it is time to commit to something in some way. But if you're not ready, trust your intuition as well. What is happening is part of a story that is bigger than you as an individual, and you can find freedom while swimming through the waters of change. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Capricorn rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 3rd house, which is associated with connection, communication, and community, usually more like your neighborhood or local community. This could also relate to siblings or extended family. There is a theme of movement with the 3rd house as well, perhaps your physical movement, but also movement of ideas and connections. For these areas of life, ask yourself, if you could imagine and dream a new experience, what would that look like? What would you create from a heart-centered, soul-centered space? What types of structures would need to be in place to support that vision you have? Maybe it's informational and relational networks, but it could literally be physical structures in your local space and neighborhood. Give yourself permission to dream and listen to your intuition. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Aquarius rising. This new moon in Pisces is happening in your 2nd house, which is the house associated with your direct money and income. More broadly speaking, it can be other assets or resources as well. Sometimes it brings in themes around your physical body too, because ultimately our physical bodies are an asset as part of life. And how we tend to our money, our resources, and our bodies is a reflection of what we truly value. Ask yourself questions like, how does your financial situation fit into a bigger picture of your life? what you're hoping to create and build. If there are opportunities to take actions that move you more in a direction that feels good to you, listen to your intuition. Appreciate the kind of awareness and intelligence that exists beyond tangible form. Because when we get clear on what is intangible, our values, we can access another level of optimism and motivation to rearrange our financial and physical world so it's more in alignment with what we really desire. I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Pisces rising. This new moon is happening in your first house of overall life direction and your experience as an individual. So this could be quite the significant event for you. Because there's a stellium in this sign, notice if any of the planets are close to your ascendant. That could suggest potential events related to your physical body or very poignant revelations and intention setting around your overall life direction. This is also the part of your chart which reflects the body-spirit connection. How does spirit and energy move through you as an expression of life itself? And I know that sounds a little woo-woo, which maybe you like, but if it feels a little out there, another way of looking at this is noticing how you feel when you're connected to nature, reminding yourself that although you are an individual with a very specific life direction and purpose, you are also part of a much bigger web of life, and what you bring to life is needed. You're an integral part of our connected experience. Give yourself permission to dream and imagine. What do you want this next phase of life to look like? I wish you the best with this new moon in Pisces. Thank you for being here. That's it for our horoscopes. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you enjoy this content, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and drop a comment below if there's anything else that would be helpful in relationship to these new moon and full moon videos. For example, would it be helpful to have a guided meditation? Would you enjoy journaling prompts or ideas around other ways to work with the full moon and new moon energy? I would love to hear from you around what you would enjoy. Special thank you to my new recent subscribers, and I look forward to connecting again soon.